Good, good, good. It's good to be back. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Appreciate your patience with me here this morning as we're just getting started. This is our first stream back in the States. It's good to be back here in New York. I'm here at my parents' house. It's a beautiful sunny day, and today I'm going to be celebrating my niece's 3rd birthday. So shout out to Ruby if she's out there. Great to have you and happy birthday. We are going to, let me get my chat open better here. All right, that's what I needed. Trying to get this set up. Adam Eli says, let's go. It's so good to have you back, Adam Eli, and it's great to be here. And I'm just going to kind of give people an update on where I've been and what I've been up to. It's been an interesting couple weeks. It's been a difficult couple weeks in ways that are both beautiful and sad. I'm kind of want to give you all an update and a real picture of what the writer life can kind of look like sometimes. And it does feel good to be kind of on the other side of it, mostly. And I just want to kind of speak about that honestly. So essentially I was in Athens and I was working really hard on these projects, and it's going incredibly well. And I was hitting all of my deadlines that I set in this writing workshop to finish this set of 7 cosmogonic myths, these hymns that could be read, they could be sung, that tell of the emergence of humanity, essentially, from nothing, from the void. And what happened was when I kept writing, I had this sort of vomit draft, that's what we called it, in this workshop, of just kind of writing as much as I could. And when I got to the end, it just didn't stop. It actually kept going until it finished where it started, kind of all the way back at the beginning. And it's not actually so much longer, but it is more complex. And so even though I've been hitting all my writing goals, it's also felt like the project's gotten bigger on me. And it just feels like it's felt a little bit like this never-ending thing that is always kind of extending out in front of me. And I set aside this year to really give it a shot to try to get these cosmogonic myths done. I don't think anybody's ever done anything like it. I think I'm one of the few people who are studied enough in it, curious enough about it, and with this able to channel this distinct register to pull off a project like this. And this idea about it being a myth, right? And so what is a myth? A myth is a story that has happened, is happening, and will always happen. It happens in this sort of timeless register, a timeline beyond stories. And I think that the idea that this story that I started writing, I didn't see that it actually ends where it starts again. I didn't see that it was a loop when it started, and then it looped back to itself in a way that justifies telling it again. And I think that's an important point, because I think there are a lot of different religions, and there are a lot of different philosophies, and there are a lot of different ideologies that talk about this concept of the cyclical nature of life, about it being kind of fated, about destruction, rebirth and destruction, and that we're all kind of fated towards these ends, and that we don't have so much say in that. And I think that there is a lot of evidence to point to there being cycles to the world, and them being light and dark. But I also think that what I've been looking at and what I've been trying to say is to find that sorry. That mythic register, and to really be able to produce something that is a story in and of itself, not just a story for a fantasy world, but a mythology that stands on its own. And it's going to require a lot of pushing through, a lot of lack of perfectionism, and a lot of strategy to actually pull this off in a way that is going to be coherent. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some of that. But before I do, and we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about this new schedule that we have, which is going to be Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern time today. That is not the case. Today's kind of, we're just warming back up, testing the tech out, streaming off schedule. Just, it was time to get back in it. There was some turbulence in the changeover from Athens, and you know, when you're streaming and you don't have a place to be, and you have to figure out the internet and where you're going to actually be, and if you don't have access to the Ethernet, are people running around, you know? So I'm glad to be back and having created this space and writing with you all here today. The next thing is that I think I kind of should have grounded the beginning of the stream in it with this first opening slide here, which is that we have a new working title of the myths, which is called a week. And that's, so it's going to be 7 days that are made up, which is 7 myths, essentially, 7 stories, as you kind of tell about the Earth's emergence from absolutely nothing, to becoming kind of all light, and why she might actually choose to become all dark again. And I think that what I wanted to bring up today, and why I should have had this open at the very start, but all good, warming back up here, is I want to talk about the Enuma Elish today, and this number 7. So the number 7 is extremely crucial for our mythology. We have 7 days of the week. We have 6 planets plus 1 sun creates a 7. We have 7 myths. We are going to be launching this stream out of beta and into a proper launch on July 7th, 2026. And I think that, this number 7, it tends to show up as a number of completeness, a number of wholeness across almost all cultures. But the one that I kind of wanted to bring up today that I find the most interesting, that will kind of tie in to what we have been talking about with regards to the mythology as a sort of creation myth, is the Enuma Elish. And this is an ancient document over 1,000 years older than the Bible, between 500 and 1,500 years older than the Bible. And it's from Mesopotamia. And these guys were pretty much the OG, the most legitimate civilization that we know about. And they were right in that Fertile Crescent. And they invented that cuneiform writing style. I don't know if you remember learning about that maybe in grade school, where they really took great records of everything that they accomplished. And they are the first people to have kind of put these sort of sacred books, these sort of sacred stories, into a 7-part mythology. So they have 7 creation tablets, and it's called this Enuma Elish. And the Enuma Elish means like as on high, so like as above, like at that kind of pinnacle moment. And it's about kind of the precipice between mortality and the gods. And I think that sometimes it's interesting, to look at, so the Old Testament has 5 books, right? And then we continue expanding them onto the New Testament. But it's interesting sometimes to look at the origins of these stories and where they actually come from. So let's talk about, what's interesting about at least Genesis with regards to the Enuma Elish is that you can see they are clearly related. They are clearly associated with one another based on different myth themes, little identifiers and translations that appear in both myths, as well as them both having 7 days of creation. From waters, from void. And so when people talk about the Enuma Elish, I think it's interesting. I think the first layer that people should understand is that, the Old Testament was not like the first book of its kind, that there were those who came before, which is not to say that it is not one of the most important, and it's not to say that it's the truth now. Because when you speak about divine scripture, and you speak about culturally influencing works like that, you're talking about the war of the gods. You're talking about a cultural war of ideas, and these are stories, beyond before there was media right in your phones, and there was institutionalized things like that. There were mothers who told their kids stories to try to orient them, right? And so when we're talking about that sort of unifying principle, and especially those stories that unify different peoples across different lands. For example, I was just in Athens, and I went to a Passover Seder, and I was a lot of the traditions and ideas and prayers were the same, and that's it, because we have this unifying principle of a single book. It doesn't even matter where you are, especially for peoples in diaspora. Having sort of that unifying principle is very interesting. But I think that when you think about Numalis and you think about the Old Testament, I think what's important to understand is that the Bible didn't just adopt it and evolve from it. It evolved as a reaction to it. So even though they're clearly related, the Bible seems to take over some of the themes of the Enuma Elish and almost seem to rebut them, as in everything about it is a sort of reaction to its time and the concepts of its time. And I think that every story does have to do that, does have to have a consciousness of what needs to be read in its time. And you can aspire for a sort of a timeless reader, a reader that exists beyond time, beyond one generation, beyond your own reading. But also I think that why people always love songs and of new musicians and things is that we need new stories that are of our time that make us think differently. And I think that's kind of why I bring up this Enuma Elish, which is to say the TLDR, and that is that its relationship to the Bible is absolutely, it's impossible to deny, scientifically, philosophically, narratively, in a lot of ways. But just because one is earlier than the other does not make it more superior or more true. That especially in the War of the Gods, whichever one becomes true longer and is actually worshipped, has shrines and temples, that would be kind of the currency of a god's power and its success, is how many mortals are worshiping it and how many sacrifices it receives. Also that this number 7 is 7 days of a creation myth it has some precedent. Enuma Elish and Genesis being the most popular and common of them, but it is not the only way. It's actually not the most common method of creation. The Quran has it similarly as well. But I wanted to highlight Enuma Elish because I think it is extremely interesting. And these guys back in Sumeria, back in Mesopotamia, I mean, they had something going on. I mean, if you look at the Ziggurat of Ur, which is this ancient temple in Iraq, which was, a Mesopotamian temple that was covered in these sorts of cuneiform markings that worshipped these gods, the god Marduk, who's hugely inspires this story. I mean, like, what the fuck is going on in that building, and these guys were tapped into something, and they were thinking in just a different way, and they were fluent in a sort of symbolic language that our level of reason and study has made it difficult to understand. And I'm a big believer in reason and study, but I think these guys were smarter than we thought they were, and I think they knew more than we give them credit for what they knew in ways that are difficult to fully understand. And so let's keep moving on to the next slide, unless anybody has any questions here. All right, so let's get this open. All right, so I want to talk about the stories changing, and I think that's kind of what today's about. Is it's a little bit about giving people an update about the fact that the story has changed, and not really, right? So before it was 7 myths, and now it's still the same myths. And if we look at the original logline, we can read that one first. It says, "Once is a compendium of 7 original myths that trace the emergence of humanity from before the beginning, bringing astrophysics, philosophy, and religion into a single foundational story." Okay, so what this one was doing, what you can see is that it's really focused on that emergence of humanity from before the beginning, right? So the end game within this original log line is the emergence of humanity. What I realized is that once I got to the emergence of humanity, I couldn't help myself but kind of continue trace it. It sounds a little nuts saying it out loud, and I do. This is my place to talk about these things, to pretty much no one, but to anybody who does end up watching this ever, and anyone who happens to swing by the chat, which is to say, this project's fucking intense, and it's taking a lot out of me, and I do love it so much. I wake up wanting to just work on it, but I hit my deadlines and the end doesn't get closer. And the only other person who ever worked on something like this, a standalone mythology that's its own stories of there's a whole world and the people who tell them, is Tolkien, but he never actually published these stories. He had them just at home, and his kids had to publish them after his death, and we don't want to be like that. We have to learn from his mistakes. Not mistakes, but his getting stuck. Like, we need to release a version. We need to get a version of this out, and we need to find ways to narrow the scope the best that we can. And that is one of the ways that the week structure actually came to pass, which is to say that 7 days makes a lot of sense. As light turns to dark, there's a lot of transitions like that if you've been following along. And in addition, weeks repeat, right? So like if, let's say if we're abstracting at one layer, we're saying, okay, if every week is just a week, right? So like it's all kind of on a repeating cycle. Why would you start again on Sunday on Monday or after Sunday, depending on where you want to start, after you just completed one? Like, what justifies going through a cycle all over again? And I think that this is like a sort of cosmic question that I was really getting to, which kind of gets to what is the purpose of life, right? So because you're gonna all die, right? So we all are doomed to know that we're gonna die. And that's what a week has really sort of become. And I'll read the log line now, and we can talk about it. But there are two competing visions for it, and we can talk about them. And I just got to be honest, the stuff that's coming out is coming out amazing. But the complexity, it's been a tough couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Latest log line. So a week is a 7-day cosmogonic hymn that hums how Earth emerges from a dark as a daughter of a dying sun, who she becomes trying to escape her shadow, and why, after becoming a mother and every light all light, she always chooses to become a dark again. Now, it doesn't quite flow. It's a little clunky. I just wrote it yesterday. But I think if I read it back one more time, we'll have a better understanding of it, is what I'm saying, and we can kind of compare them. I think I want to give people an update on the project and have a moment of checking in on the project here. So what we have is a week is a 7-day cosmogonic hymn, so we're saying that it's about the creation of the universe. That's what cosmogonic means. But on one hand, we also have to consider that cosmogonic is a difficult word. It's a word that most people don't know what it means. I didn't know what it means until I got sort of obsessed with all this stuff. So if I wanted to be, if already we're, even though it's the most correct word, if it's so abstract and esoteric, then people aren't understanding it, and they feel like they can't engage with it, and they can't feel confident about it enough to be excited about it, then what the fuck are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So that's where these words like cosmogonic, even in any sort of the materials, need to really be considered. But that hums how, I think it should be hums of how, Earth emerges from a dark as a daughter of a dying sun, who she becomes trying to escape her shadow, and why, after becoming a mother and every light all light, she always chooses to become a dark again. And so, even though on first read I can tell it's clunky, because even though I wrote it, it was on first read, it was rather clunky. If you take a deeper look at it, it's actually has a nice structure to it, which is to say how Earth emerges from a dark, who she becomes trying to escape her shadow, and why, after becoming a mother, she comes back again. But I think what this, reading back this log line out loud, and why I think there's so much value in streaming together with you all, is like, I think the obvious thing is that this seems almost like a mythological textbook of origins, and not a story. And I feel like those sorts of stories of genealogies and origins of textbooks, those ones dissolve. But the ones that are a story that are sort of timeless and human, timeless in their humanity and their universality, both. Those are the ones that stick with you. And I think really considering leaning into this idea of a mother of Earth as the protagonist, and cutting any fluff, and knowing things that go away from her, that don't have to do with her, knowing that we can definitely try to cut as much away as possible, and us knowing where everything goes on the outside could actually be, extremely beneficial in the harmony of the entire completed work. And so let's continue. So emerges from a dark to become a daughter, who she becomes trying to escape her shadow. That's okay. I think what I was trying to do is just, with this sort of structure of the how who and why, I was just kind of almost outlining to myself what it was that I needed to accomplish. And but it doesn't have any harmony, it doesn't have any coolness, but you can't get too stuck on it. But I do think it is, we need a North Star team. Like, it's been really tough, and we're not halfway through the year that I set aside for this. And I have hit my deadlines, but then the project's expanding, the project's evolving, and we do need to watch it. We do need to check in with ourselves honestly. We cannot give up, we don't quit, but we also need to reassess the project at numerous times during this. Like, this has never been done before. This has no parallel in modern books. Although I do think that coming up with a list of parallel books is something I should do, like Dante's Inferno, Ovid's Metamorphoses. Like, these are the kind of books that will be the best parallels and kind of help explain it. But I think the big question on my mind that I'm going to be able to answer in like the next 2 months, probably. Maybe 3. Let's give ourselves a little time for this prediction. Is I lost my train of thought. We can continue though. Who she becomes trying to escape her shadow, and why, after becoming a mother, every light, all light, she always chooses to become a dark again. This is too clinical. We were talking about a mother, her story. So the TLDR on the log line is really that we needed to be a story about her. We needed to be a story about how, like, let's say one day she has her, she's just water, then she is another day where she gets salt water, then another day where she gets life, then another day where she gets mountains, right? So we're going to create her orbit. We're going to create her axial rotation. We're going to create her consciousness of herself. We're going to create her continents. We're going to create her mountains. We're going to create her seas. And I think that's going to be the kind of myth of the evolution of her. But hey, Obs, I'm live streaming. I'm at my parents' house. They're great. This is my first time streaming here. It is harder when it's not your place. You don't have your own setup. You are not wanting to set up on toes. You have to set everything up, pack everything down every time, but it is all good. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be out here with you all. Man. I think a story that starts where it ends is pretty fucking cool. That's all I can say. And we're not really necessarily just talking about a circle. I think there's more to it than that. It's let's say you finish the circle, right? You come back all the way around. You finish where you began. A lot of stories begin where they end. But this one really justifies succeeding itself, was how I say it. But it really justifies telling it again. It tries to really be clear about that. It tries to say, go tell this story. And yeah, let's keep cooking on. What else? All right, this is not the best document here, but we'll make do for today. I think today I'm just trying to get back in the game. Not too stressed about that. But I will read out loud to you all so that we can follow along, because I can know that it's a little bit weird, the text size. So trying to get it larger for myself as well. All right. so we have a 7-day week here, team. And let's take a second. Let's just talk on camera. It's been a minute. No one's in here. This slide is shit. This might be my first time crashing out on the internet. No, it's not a crash out. The project's amazing and it's beautiful and it's going well. But I have to say, everything is proving hard. Everything is proving challenging. I have shown indomitable will, but I have not shown a level of cleverness that I need to find what's going to work for me sustainably with this stream, with this project, with my life, realistically. And I say this now, I mean, nobody's in here, but just kind of as, I guess, a record. If ever this project does succeed, if ever it does become of consequence, look back on this time. I think it's scary to make fundamental changes, but sometimes you have to, and you have a sort of timeline. In your mind, and even in my workshop, right? So I have a writing workshop, and changing things up and trying to figure out what's a real deliverable. And I think the big question is going to be, like, if day one stands alone, if day one stands alone as a myth, as a story in and of itself, then you can sell it as like myth 1 of 7. But as I said out loud to you now, it just doesn't sound that compelling. Oh, a story that begins where it ends, it's of everything. Like, we need a more narrow focus, and I think it really has to be about Earth. And we really just got to narrow it onto her. And every day has to be about different things that happen to her, on her. And any of the stories that I have that don't directly relate to that, I think we need to really consider not including in a very serious way. And then actually finishing this project and having it be about Earth. Having it be a project about Earth. And then I don't even think we would call it a week. And it takes all this wrestling to get through this, to actually get there. And it feels like lack of clarity, but in some cases, all these days, like almost all this myth is like pretty much the same as it's been. So it actually feels like almost more clarity, but I'm further away. I think we really need to make her as real as possible. I think it's gonna have to live or die by Earth. And I think we need to dress everything in that. We've had a keeper as a potential narrator. We have had and we've had her as a potential narrator, and we've had people tell their own stories within the myths, but I think ultimately it's got to be her lens, or this story just won't work, and it has to be her story. And I think it will be worth it, maybe for us to even consider, as we're coming up with this in real time, to really actually think about that, to really go through the idea of mother being the full-blown protagonist, and changing this from a story about everything to a story about how she's born, and how she evolves and how she emerges and what her cosmic journey is. And I think that we should totally do that. Let's continue on with kind of the way that we roughly set up the week now, with regards to the days, because the days are going to be quite similar. It's just about the lens. It's just about the lens of who's telling the story. It's just about the lens of who has, how much information do they have? Are they omnipotent, or are they limited in just beholding whatever it is their character, whatever it is their limited perspective does behold? Obviously, if it's narrated from someone who has already seen it, it's already happened, that person has a lot more information than a person who's in the present moment actually living it. So the first day is going to be called a sun, so it's like Sunday, right? And it's a heliocentric cosmos that emerges from a seed at the heart of the void. And so we're talking about something coming out of nothing. We're saying that this orbit, this universe that we created, this universe that we live in, that is heliocentric with the sun at its center, came from a single primordial atom, a single primordial seed, a single primordial egg, which is obviously, supported by the Big Bang. The next day is day 2, which is going to be about a mother. And this may have to be moved up a little bit, as we're beginning to talk about how a mother and the divine feminine is really going to play a significantly more important role as we move forward. But this story is really going to be about a daughter's futile flight from her own shadow, birthing twin sons. So we can unpack that a bit. The idea is that a daughter is trying to escape her shadow, and it's actually her inability to do that, her spinning around, all the movement and the shame and everything associated with that, that actually begets life ultimately. That actually ultimately begets life. And I think that that's going to be a very interesting concept that we continue to explore, which is this idea of shame being a more complicated emotion than just being a negative emotion. Shame being something that can stir you to make change, to say, I don't want to be that person who does that, and I want to be more than what I am, and that can stir you towards a sort of positive change. And so it's a sort of revisitation of that concept of shame as actually a cosmic property by which some of extremely powerful internal register informs us, oh, you must make a change. You're not in alignment with who you are supposed to be, with who you think you are, with who the divine expects you to be, whatever you want to call it. You have some internal reaction to it, and I think that obviously there's some shame that's goes totally beyond reasonable and can even be crippling. You talk about people's body dysmorphia, and you talk about people's just insecurities and inability to stand up for themselves or believe in themselves. But I also think that it's not just a one-sided coin. I think shame does have another side of that coin, which is a generative, creative aspect to it. So that's really what that's about. And I think that for any lady listeners, readers out there, across any generations, across any timelines, I think shame is something learned quite quickly. What you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't do, and those feelings of shame are often going to come from within versus without first, and obviously you can talk them down or whatever, but there is going to be this visceral moment of whenever you're doing whatever it is you're doing, if it goes against spinal based values that we've learned via osmosis our entire lives since we were baby children. I am rambling today kind of on purpose. I think today is supposed to just be warming up, getting back on camera, not allowing myself to be stopped by small imperfections, not letting myself be stopped by the hiccups of missing that week and the turbulence of leaving Athens. I had a difficult time at the end of Athens. I was feeling quite sick, and plus the traveling, and I'm not making an excuse. Just it's good to be back. It's good to be back with you all, and I think that it is just a difficult place for me. I'm just in a difficult place, and I'm just being honest with that. I think that's kind of a lot of what this brand is, and that's a lot of what, if this channel ever succeeds, it's going to be about. It's going to be these down moments of like, shit, man, like I'm changing my log line. You start shifting your North Star, things starts really changing. But even if the log line I shared with you all today is not one that I believe in, I think that if I look back earlier at the original one, it's even less correct. It's even less correct because ultimately the story is about her. It's about Earth. It's about the only daughter of the sun. She's the only one who's blue, who is lush, is flush with sweet waters, whose watery surface reflects light back. Earth is a very special planet. She's the protagonist of our world. There's not a single person. She's something we all share, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think more than likely, if you're watching this, you're from Earth, on Earth, of Earth. More likely than not. And that's a pretty universalizing principle. And I think instead of trying to tackle every single story, because I can see so many stories, and I'm just thinking about this out loud with you all, team, is we need to narrow our focus, We need to narrow our focus. Which story these needs to be told and why. I think a strong argument could be made for two different parts of it. And I wonder if we fuse it. Because a mother is the story, right? In the current draft, the story starts, you know, a dark, not light loves to become. But if we cut that off, then we don't have our start to end to start. Then we lose that. So what's our timeline? What's our story? And we're going to end up privating all these one day. Maybe release the ancient archives for everyone else. This is really just for a few random people's souls who end up watching it. It's me and you. Here's her story. Story of Earth. Daughter and mother. She's born in the Big Bang. She's born when the sun explodes out of a single primordial atom. Single primordial seed that was at the center of a black hole. She's created because light, a sun needs to be held in order for darkness not to claim. It needs to be seeing, needs to be seen. Being behold is a crucial part of reality itself, rendering. She feels all that love. She does want to orbit around the sun. When she gets back where she started, that's where she recognizes that she has a shadow, because she sees that the sun has no shadow. She feels ashamed. She spins, cause her to cry. The tears, salt water collides with the fresh water. At dawn and at dusk, two sons are born. We're speaking abstractly, just high level for those people who've been following the story, but also just me speaking out loud to myself right now. From her perspective, what's going on with her two sons fighting? Right, so if we write the brother myths from her perspective, right, so she's just making milk. She is just trying to feed both of them, doesn't know. Does she know how much one of her sons is suffering? She would have to. But nature's impartiality is like a divine thing. Anyway, she birthed sons. The war between her sons creates the fiery molten core, creates the frigid heart of the moon, which then continues their battle via avatars. The avatar battles color the landscape. It has to be about. I don't even know if we need humans. It all has to be about constructing Earth, the different components of her. Horizontal rotation, orbit, fresh water, salt water, land, mountains, snakes, birds, beasts. Mankind. There's too much good in this story. There's too much good about it, and that's a good problem to have. I think some people have writer's block. That's not the problem we're having with this project. It's a lot of good threads, a lot of good angles to take it. The humanity angle and the Earth angle. As protagonists are obviously good. They both have their merits, but I think that the Earth angle has never been done before. I think that if we think about the actual purpose and meaning of an impact of any of these stories could possibly have for young artists like myself, trying to make a story that takes people to a different sort of destination, the idea that the Earth is an actual like divinely feminine female woman being that wants to be courted and treated in that way by mankind is a kind of interesting concept. I think the way that we treat her would be a little bit differently, and I think that we've never been so detached from that, given the urbanization of our lives and digitization of it. But she's a nice lady. This planet that we all share. So let's take some notes. on this. Let's say mother protagonist. We could say 05 17 2026. And we can just notes. So what I'm going to do now is show you guys kind of the background side. So what we've decided today, just in real time live, is that we have this story, but we're trying to figure out that loops, that justifies its own telling, talks about creation, but we're trying to tell it now, make it clear that it's from a mother's perspective, that it's from Earth's perspective. And so there are certain like key moments that I feel like are going to be extremely important that we hit as she goes from nothing to something, right? So the first moment is obviously going to be becoming something, right? So the first moment after becoming an orb, and we got to think about that. Okay, so let's talk about this. What we can say here is mother attributes to create. Okay. Number one, we can say fresh water. Two, we could say salt water. Number three, we could say orbit around sun. We could say axial spin. Fiery core. Moon. We need to create beasts, birds, serpents, trees, what else? So the idea is that we're trying to tell the story of how like Earth comes to be, right? And we want to say how her form kind of evolves to demonstrate that, right? Based on like her form is forever changed, her planetary surface is forever changed as she goes through the process of this creation to become the Earth that we need, right? So we also could use clouds. Stars. Mountains. Land. Right, and so what the idea is, we want to go through this entire mythology and make sure that we're just hitting each of these notes. And by the end, you get a fully textured Earth. And I think that that has to be the story. All this other work and all this other ideas are really good. They're really great, and they're very important, I think, for the full understanding. But it's gotta be her. It was always her, you know? It was always her story. What happens before her, what happens after her, what happens in her, what happens on her, what happens to her. It's all about Earth. It is all about Earth. So if we start the story entirely from Earth's perspective, then do we start from completely darkness? Probably. Still, we do. Do we start with it at the center of a black hole that's swallowing and getting darker and darker? Probably we do. Yeah, probably. The alternative being that there aren't two pulses of light for creation. We have a light and a sun as one, but I like the double pulse. So if it's starting with the sun's emergence and then the giving of the daughter, if we're jumping ahead towards her story, what do we need? What do we need? What do we need? Do we start with a black hole? Do we start with a black hole? Does it go a darkest, a darkness, a darker, a darkest, a dark? And I think it does. I think it probably does. All right, so let's try to take some learnings out from here today. And do a little TLDR before we do a tiny bit of gaming and get ready for a much more epic stream next week. But today was a nice stream too, very low key. Okay, let's do notes. Actually, we could do it like this. I think is better. Takeaways. Okay, number 1, mother equals protagonist. It's all about her. Guys, if we tell the story and it's just a fucking story about shit happening with cool names that makes a lot of logical sense and has like mythic undertones, no one's gonna give a fuck. But if it's a story about Earth, it's her story, And she's not the whole story, but she's the center of it. Happens in her, on her, around her, to her, for her, by her. She is a very interesting character, and she predates all of us, all of humanity. Why is she here? Why does she have a fiery core in the center of her belly? How did her moon get there? What does she want? Does she have an endgame? Does she like it when we plant more trees? Does she hate it when we extract oil? Or is she happy for us to see us, her children, drinking of her nectars, you know? What's her personality like, this earth that we're on? And I get to tell it however I want, but I want to tell it in line with the ancient myths. I'm connecting all the bricks, but I'm trying to tell one story of a lot of different stories in a very elegant, creative way, using abstraction to bridge gaps. And guys, I think it has so much fucking potential. It kills me. Makes it so hard to do anything else. Because, especially when it's in some in-between states like this, and the scaffolding feels wobbly at times. Beneath all that is this fucking passion to see this through and see how it all comes out, and thinking it could be so fucking good, and thinking I could actually pull it off, and thinking I could actually do it, and thinking that I could actually contribute some of my skills to this canon of just people talking about these sorts of things, you know. Not as like a scholar, but as a poet almost, as a storyteller. If I can make her story, then we have a story. And I think what we want to really, really do for her is, like, it's obviously there's a romance between her and humanity. We really need to lean in on archetypal romantic tropes of courtship and chivalry. How a man demonstrates he's worthy of her trust, worthy of being inside of her, worthy of impregnating her, worthy of fathering, siring her children. So, what does the word sire mean? I mean, I know it's the verb, and I also know it's like a title, but I wonder, like, I'm kind of just curious the exact definition. A sire is a male parent of an animal. As a noun, it means to father offspring. Historically, the word is also an archaic, respectful title used to. I think sire is a cool word for, like, calling a dad. You know, like in a world, instead of using father, use sire. It's kind of fucking cool. Now we're taking a note of now, but. So Tegu's mother is the protagonist. It's all about her. Yeah, that's what it is. It's going to be a map of a creation of a textured globe from a sphere of water. But I think that's what's going to ground people. How does this change the actual land? How does this change the actual sea? How does she go from being an orb of water to a, diverse, lush biome teeming with life? These are very important questions. And we're going to continue answering them together. And I appreciate you guys just swinging by for a little warm-up stream today. Just getting back into it, coming back from New York and getting my setup here and figuring out my next chapters. And truthfully, it hasn't been an easy few weeks for me. It's okay. Very resilient, and also hasn't been so bad. But hasn't been easy either. Has not. So let's do some games here. We'll do a quick Mythic Plus, and then I've got my my niece's third birthday party pretty soon, so definitely gonna have to be swinging out to go to that. So you wanna know what's really hard? Doing fucking anything. Just anything. I wish I did anything but this, making myths. But this is what I do. I'm so passionate about it, I can't really do anything else. But I need to learn how to be better than that. I need to learn how to be more of a person. Some balance. Let's find a nice group for us here too. Either of these two 14s will be really good for us as far as what we're looking for right now. Sweet spot. Nice. I fucking hate that first pull of Algathar Academy. We got live a little early today due to my niece's birthday party. Gotta get a lockdown schedule here, Tim. Need a place, need a schedule. But fortunately, if we finish one more key, we'll be able to upgrade one of our trinkets. And that's a thing that people don't understand about we WoW players is when it feels like you're not getting traction on anything in life, there's always a good goal to work for, and WoW, that is a rewarding feeling and exciting. So I'm grateful for it. I heard that there was a way to change my anti-magic shield appearance. I gotta Google what the fuck that is, because I kind of want it. Shaman, nice. Shaman, nice. All right, 14 out of 5. This is perfect for us, team. This is exactly what we want. All right, let's get into this. Let's get into it. All right, so the first pack is going to be the scariest part of this whole thing. If we can nail that, I feel confident we'll be okay for everything on the rest of the pool. What's our comp here? We got mage. What kind of mage? I'll put feast down like a legend that I am. I gotta get myself a transmog mount. I wonder what options there are for different transmog mounts these days. Kind of like the yak. It's pretty iconic. Running low on flasks. We've been running a bunch of dungeons. All right. I even typed it in the group. If we survive the first pack, it's an easy win. But this is a really tough pack for Blood Death Knights. Take a lot of damage. It's not so easy to kite away to drop the bleed stacks. All right. I think we want those guys to pass, actually. We can come along this one. Big pulls here. Big damage here. It's all about this here, team. Gotta move, get out. Gotta move, get out. Spirit Link, nice. Gotta move, get out. I'm taking too much damage. I gotta block the bleed. If I can't drop stacks, we die. I drop stacks. We live. God damn it, this is dangerous. No. Dude, the damage is insane on that. Man, I fucked that. I died 50% of the time on that. This is just auto death here. It's cooked. Fucking A. That's a tough pack, man. That really is a tough pack. Let's get one in here. All good. We learn from everyone. It's when it's kind of in that in between time after the second round of cooldowns drop, where the damage is just so overwhelming from those stacking bleeds. It just gets extremely out of control. If you're a dwarf, you could just fucking be resilient to it, immune to it, which is insanely OP, but we are not a dwarf. We are a worgen, at least for now. What do I want to do? A seat of the triumvirate? It's not what we want of him. We would do... Okay, 16 Nexus, I'm down. Damn it, bro. That's a tough pull. That is a tough pull. No ifs, ands, or boots about that. No ifs, ands, or boots about that. Maybe ifs, ands, or tennis shoes, but no ifs, ands, or boots. Oh, let's get you guys some good gaming here, fam. Let's get some proper gaming going. All right. I just hit 3K IO as a tank, and wow, kind of lit. Kind of lit. I'm kind of proud of that. It's pretty hard as a tank, at least. I'm sure different roles have different challenges as far as like getting groups and stuff, pugging, but this tank is just a lot to learn. And if you don't learn it, you really can't get carried. You have to be good enough to get through the dungeon, or you just get cooked. You just get absolutely cooked. All right, let's give this one a good honest shot here, team. Good honest shot. We got our flask rolling. I like this. I don't know if I like this dungeon, but I think I'm good at it. I think that a lot of people make mistakes, but I think I'm pretty clean in it. I think I got a good route. I'm always the homie hooking everybody up with food here, Tim. Everybody's tankier. I'm tankier. More heals on me. All right, this is our last dungeon. Then we got to run to my niece's birthday. It's a fun first pull. That last one's not fun because it takes forever for the bleed to fall off. This one's fun. Whew, 15. Let's go, baby. Nice, Scorpion's grass there. Taking big damage, taking big damage. Popping big heals, no one's dead. Had to use my health pot there, got close. They're almost dead. All right. How big can we pull? How big can we pull? TBD. Good to get some cleave on these batteries. We don't need that circuit seer over in that corner. I accidentally pulled it before. I have anti-magic zone for this time. I hate these circuit seers, bro. They're the one mob I hate in here. A lot of damage about to go out. Not sure I can survive it. Yeah, I can. Okay. I didn't want this guy, but what can you do? circuits here. Gotta pull up some runic power, then I can move. Doing pretty good here. Definitely ahead of time. First boss is kind of a make or break moment though. That first pull and then the first boss. Certain groups can really struggle on it, you know? Bomb. 2 bombs. Okay, we gotta wait for mana for this guy. I have been champoing nonstop. All right. Oh, fuck. Just getting a little gnarly. Come on. Man, healing seems hard this expansion. I feel like a lot of damage goes out on the group. DK is so fun. Our damage is solid if we cannot int. So far, no deaths. Easy. Should have stored some runic power for that. I don't like this fight. It goes on forever. And it's just about not fucking up, really. I guess the tank has a lot to do with space management, but... Alright. Very good time on the first time. Hear me now, lads. It's gonna be a rough build up. We're in a really good spot for time if we survive. Still no deaths. Certainly intense. We're gonna get more ads spawning here. Healer's low mana. Certainly intense. But we are in it. Time is quite good, actually. Time is quite good, actually. All right. A lot of damage at the gate. Oh no, am I lagging? No. Fucking 15, bro. I had it. No, not like this. Restart. Lose a few minutes there. But we were so far ahead, it might be close. It's not cooked completely. We'll see. Character with that name already exists. Yeesh. It's not what you want. It's not what you want to be seeing, fam. Fuck. We lost the group, dude. Oh my. Oh man. Alright. That's shit. But all good. I'm gonna show you guys my new transmog on my roleplay character. She's looking good. Where is she? Here she is. Alright. Can you see this lass? This lovely lass. Oof. Damn. With the chankini, almost impossible to pull off. Yeesh. Looking good, lady. Looking good. All right. I'm going to head to my niece's third birthday party. It's good to be back. It's great to be back. Got a lot of writing to do. Got a lot of talking to do. Got a lot of thinking to do. For the few of you who are here today, thank you. We'll be getting it consistent, trying to create something more valuable for people to even want to watch back later. Some nicer thumbnails, some tidying. But for now, I bid you Godspeed and good fortune on all your